For the second year in a row, the Korean auto manufacturers have swept the top 3 spots on J.D. Power's annual report card for initial vehicle quality on new vehicles. While this may come as a bit of a surprise to you, just as it did to me, it really indicates Kia, Genesis, and Hyundai's dedication to really changing the perception of their brand and the great moves and strides they're making to just putting out great vehicles and really making themselves a player in the automotive industry again. So if you're not familiar with the way the J.D. Power initial quality study works, it's all based on kind of surveys that they get back from consumers, and they report problems that they have with their vehicles in the first year of ownership. And then these are averaged out to be weighted on number of problems per 100 vehicles. So we can see a snippet of the list here, but if you also want to see the whole list and get more information about the report, head over to our website or check out this story on Apple News, where you can get a much more detailed, comprehensive summary of this report, and we can really dive into this more. But in this video, we just want to kind of get the key takeaways and summarize some of the hottest topics in the auto industry for you. So that's really what Story of the Day is all about. So as we can see here, on the top of the list is Genesis with only 63 problems reported per 100 vehicles, and Kia and Hyundai following not far behind at 70 and 71 respectively. So all 3 of these numbers are pretty good numbers, especially compared to the industry average of 93 problems per 100 vehicles. And perhaps what's the best indication here for these brands is that this has happened 2 years in a row now. It's really showing a certain degree of consistency and dedication to their consumer base, and it really just goes to show how they've developed good manufacturing processes and proper quality cars to really change the way people perceive their brands. Because if you're like me, you kind of grew up thinking of Kia and Hyundai as the budget cars, and now they've really rebranded. They spun off Genesis to make a luxury brand now, and they're really pushing new vehicles that are attractive, great value, and apparently great quality as well. So on one note, I'd love to hear down below in the comments what you think of these 3 brands. Do you own one, or have you driven one recently? And just, how does that vehicle compare to your kind of preconceived notions of these brands? But on a side note, I also want to have just a quick conversation about the kind of J.D. Power initial quality survey and how it's generated. Because part of the issue with this means of testing, and I don't know how you would change it, but it's also knowing that there are issues with this way of testing. And the main issue is that it's not an apples to apples comparison, because every brand's consumers are going to have a different level of expectation for their car. So all the time in these reports, brands like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Range Rover, Jaguar, luxury brands like that are pretty consistently below the industry average. And that's not necessarily to say that they have lower quality versus other brands like the Korean brands, for example. But what that says more is that their consumers have much higher expectations of their vehicles that they're buying, so they will report more problems and be more nitpicky. Because what we don't know on this list is what kind of problems were they, the degree of the problem, things like that. Like, it could be a very little thing, like there's a little rattle in my Range Rover, I'm going to complain about that, I'm going to take it to the dealership to get fixed. But if I'm driving a Hyundai Santa Fe, for example, and there's a little rattle in it, maybe I don't take it to the dealership to get fixed, so it's not counted as a problem. So I'm not trying to discredit what work the Korean brands have done here, because they are still outpacing their competition, which is without a doubt a huge accomplishment. So I'm not trying to belittle that at all, but I am just trying to indicate and point out to you that these surveys do have their flaws. It is a good benchmark, but it's not the only benchmark for quality. So just keep that in mind as you look at this list, that what is shown here in this breakdown is not always the full picture. But as I say, go ahead and check out the story on our website or on Apple News, where you can get much more detail and we can really dive into this report. But that's really the key takeaway for this J.D. Power initial quality study for 2019 vehicles. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe so you can get more videos like this one in your subscription list, because we do videos each and every week on the hottest stories in the automotive industry and break them down and summarize them neatly for you. So in the meantime, I'm going to get back to the automotive news, and I will see you in our next video.